What's happening, people? So we're back on today for another episode, and I'm talking about the pressures of being a successful person in construction. But this is of the basis of someone who is black like myself. I've realized that I have opened different Pandora's box when it comes to people online, reaching new people and sharing my message. So I'm going to continue on with this mission, which I've set myself on to be able to deep dive and just unpack some of the answers and create a community where people have this content available for them to resonate with, but also understand. Yeah. Understanding it is the first things first. When I got into construction, did I understand that there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me? Hell to the yes, I did. The first person I knew, obviously, was my uncle who got me into construction, who is also a black man. At the firm which I was at the beginning, there was no play on race or play on like position, if you get what I mean, because my uncle was a contracts manager, so that was a very high position to be in, and I thought it was a step in the right direction when it comes to management, but also a good goal for me to try and reach as someone who was a plumber, someone who's coming from that background, and where's the next step, right? Because it's okay to be looking for the next step in your company, but sometimes you find, yeah, that when you look at your tree of command, yeah, no one on that tree of command is anyone of ethnicity, right? And that should sometimes that will make you think, what the fuck is going on here? But when you say that, you need to deep dive into it and ask yourself, like, you know, is there progression where I am at? Because putting all your eggs in one basket doesn't make sense. We all knew that from the beginning. Sometimes out of work situations, yeah, you're only going to get so much out of it, right? So it might just be a job. It might just be a job where there is no progression, but you have to ask the questions in it. Because living in London, yeah, we all know the price of bread and the price of everything is going up and up and up and up. So I'm speaking about young black people. We also want to get on the property ladder, and we also want to earn enough money so we can enjoy our lives, but also have enough to be able to save and also invest in things which you want to invest in, which might be outside situations. I have loads of outside situations. What I've got on the verge to be able to come out, like a book. I've got an app as well, and I've got a few other little things, ventures, which I have to personally invest my own money in, so I can get it started, but also get it to the point where it needs to be. So again, I need capital from workplaces, right? I invest and reinvest my money within myself, just like anybody else would. When you've got a dream or you've got a mission, yeah, you want to keep to it. So I will talk about the workplaces and being successful inside the workplaces. I think that word success can be subjective to who and what the task is, right? So normally the task is to be able to gain a better role. So if I start as a plumber, yeah, I might want to move up to a supervisor, and then I might want to look at managers' jobs. What do I need to do to get that? What qualifications do I need to hold? And how can I strategize a move towards that to be progression for the rest of my career while I'm there? So we all know titles are very important inside workplaces, you know. So I've had a title of a plumber. I've also had a title of a lead engineer and just running sites, basically, yeah. So I'm the main person on the site. And I'll tell you something, when people have sometimes realized that I'm the main person on a site, which I was at, like Chelsea, which was a very high-end site. I done it for mainly the experience at the end of the day. But when people realized that it was me who was in charge, they were like, oh, so who's in charge? Oh, Jay's in charge. They look at him. Yeah, he's in charge. He's the boss. Oh, okay. And it was like, they wouldn't do that if they said it was someone else. That's the truth, right? But again, I might look like I'm young. I don't know. You tell me in the comment section. Do I look like I'm too young to be a boss or something like that? Because first incidents, yeah, people judge people how they look, right? So now I haven't really had a shave, but I would normally have a shave and be as presentable as I can while keeping the same attitude like towards things. Like, we're not gonna speak in slang. Do you get it? I can talk like that, I can switch it up, but that's not what I'm gonna do when I'm around those types of people, because it's just not necessary, to be honest with you. None of them are talking to me like that, so why would I be talking to them like that? You understand? Yeah, you get the vibe. So I'm always trying to conduct myself and stop myself from maybe answering in ways which I might say to myself, that might be questionable. Someone might not like that. So let's do things like the 9 to 5 way when we're at your job. I don't have a problem with doing that. Again, I've not really come across people that have told me that I've got an attitude or that you speak in a way where people can't understand. So the dialect is not the problem. Aha. These are the things what I'm going to say that people might say might go against you in these situations, right? So in most workplaces or in the workplace, sometimes you just got to be liked to be able to be put forward for any given opportunity which might further yourself, right? So how do you put yourself through that? You ask your line manager, you ask your manager, is there any positions available at this point? Blah, 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 blah. You might want to have a one-to-one with them. When you do have a one-to-one, you might speak to them formally through your email address. So it's all documented that you've said that I'm interested in doing this course to be able to further this, this, this. So getting something out of the situation is paramount to moving forward, right? Because even if you don't move forward at that job, yeah, you need to take, or you could take that course with you to another job and possibly get a better position. I know that. And re-educating yourself or making sure that your education certificates are up to date are always necessary, right? But when you're in the workplace, sometimes you realize that different people get treated differently, right? So generally, what I've seen myself is that a lot of the other guys, and I'm not going to say what race they are, but we can work it out. They've been treated a little bit differently in certain circumstances, and the lenience what has been given to them is not through the board. So as a young black man, I'm mainly on my best behavior. You understand? I'm not trying to let people get me out from things like being late, which is, that's kind of like an anybody thing, could be late, yeah? And on top of that, while I sit back and I watch and I observe, because you learn so much more when you observe and not interact, because silence is an answer, but it's also a way of composing yourself, yeah? So you compose yourself in these situations and don't play your card, because if you act, and like I've said before about and on another video, if you act like the angry, aggressive person, they will just take stereotypes with you which don't suit yourself. They're just ones which are out there. They exist, right? Every race has stereotypes about them, but us as young black men, we definitely have stereotypes about us which are definitely untrue to the person, because you got to get to know a person, and the understanding of knowing someone is spending some time with them and asking them about their goals, their ambition, what their drive is, and possibly some personal questions. You'll find most of these people will never do that. They will never indulge with that with you. It's not that you shouldn't be doing that within work, but you should, because your manager should have an understanding of who you are. There's so many times that I've spoke with people and I've heard them talking with their manager, and their managers, I don't know, it's unprofessional. That's what it is. And I only say it to people because it's me observing the conversation. I might be talking to my friend and someone calls him from the office, but the way they speak to them it's like, that's not necessary for someone to speak to you like that, for them to call you and say, where are you? And then you say where you are, which is, I'm on my day off. Oh, we need you to do this job, but I'm on my day off, innit? And I understand that a lot of us, yeah, we don't want the friction with other people because we know what can come with the friction. People can give you a hard time. And some of us have had a hard time just growing up and getting into stuff. So therefore, less of the hard time or less of the attitude stops the stigma from sticking with us as people, as we're trying to progress into successful adults. Do you understand? So the successful adult thing, yeah, it's not worrying about the problems which come with it because you don't create them, right? So it's not leading you into that, I'm being disruptive, I'm being XYZ, because sometimes you could be labeled with that because of people just decide that that's the easiest route to get you with, which is, I'll just label you as someone who is disruptive in the workplace, and which is answering back from commands on stuff like that, innit? Do you know what I mean? I think people go through them, but they don't know how to kind of like address them accordingly, right? So if someone has that situation, I think going to HR is not the route to go down. You become something which is called a whistleblower, right? Racial discrimination is definitely out there. We all know that. And you got to read between the lines to understand what it is which people, what level people are operating with you at, right? So sometimes you won't be included in everything, but they want you to do the work because they know that maybe you're the most capable person in that environment, which is, that screams your skill level is quite high, right? That oftenly happens to me. I overlook some things because at a point in my own career, I just didn't think everything what I was going through would end up, or would end up sometimes being some of the best content because it's the most real life content. But I'm thinking to myself sometimes, I don't really want to tell people all of this ins and outs, right? So I don't want to tell them what this person said, and I don't want to let people understand what my response was out of this situation, because when you stand back and you look at a situation, yeah, you're able to diagnose it a lot better. Yeah, you're able to not think rationally, which sometimes we do, because if you know anything about the story of like black men and like life and all of that, which is that I truly believe we've been like we've been the victim for a very long time, yeah. So if you call it out, you'll be seen as like, oh, just get along with it, just get on with it. But if those things happen to, on the reverse hand side, people would have something to say about it. I'm not like the ambassador for talking for all young black males, but I'm just one person that will talk out because that's just my personality. I say things how they are. Again, I've realized by having 250 comments on my last post, when I made a post about, if you're a young black male getting into construction, you need to hear this. I realized I stumbled onto a block which people was just not breaking down. People were too afraid to have the conversation, and the uncomfortable conversation was making people uncomfortable. I know that. Do I care? No, I don't care, because eventually, if I have a son, if I have a daughter, they're going to be the same color as myself due to the person who I date or whatever, right? So they're going to go through the same types of things unless you break the cycle. Breaking the cycle starts from talking about it. And I think you have to have a thoughtful way of explaining it to the internet, because the internet is a wild place. Yeah, I see a lot of people jumping in the comments saying their experience, which backs up my first video, which is just the truth. Some of the things which you need to hear, which you're just never gonna hear. But don't be afraid to listen to it, man, because look, every time you try harder, yeah, they'll just try harder. But you got to understand the game is chess and not checkers, right? And when I say that, I've realized that my personal influence, maybe on others and maybe the understanding of the industry, makes people listen, because I'm not a person that needs to talk about real personal things like this, but I do choose to because I'm at a comfortable place in my life. I'm not at a hateful place in my life. At the end of the day, I work, and I've always known that I've worked in a predominantly white industry, which is okay for me because it's not like I get racism over the board everywhere, but you get an undeniable line which sometimes stops you from being successful. And that line stems from people not understanding and opportunities not being there for all. They might be there for others, but not for all sometimes. Because if you look at certain companies, yeah, and I'm going to say, I don't want to say this company's name because they're a big company and they might say something about me. So let's not say their name, yeah. But anyway, this fella that I know, he was working for this company for 25 years. Bearing in mind, they've only had engineers for like, they had engineers when he first started doing it. Yeah. So he was one of the few first engineers, but he never became a manager. And my dad actually worked for this same company, and he told me that in the beginning. So I met an engineer and I asked him something, and I was like, do you know what? How long you been working there for? And he told me. And then I said, oh, how comes like there's no managers and stuff like that? And he's like, boy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, right. It's not that I didn't believe my dad. It's just that, you know, a second opinion coming from someone else who doesn't even know him, and they're saying the same thing. Like, it could be counted as discrimination or whatever, but when you wipe your eyes, you see it for what it is. Do you get it? It's not to deter people, because some things will slow you down in life. Progression will definitely slow you down, and mentally it will just fight away at you at some point. But you've got to decipher what how much energy I can put into this and how much energy I can't put into this, because it's not a winning streak. And that's some of the points of my video, which I want to speak about today, which are going to be, there's going to be some points in this career life which you choose for yourself, yeah, which you're not winning at. And sometimes it's because you haven't got it figured out for yourself, you know. I see that there's so many people that go through racial discrimination while at work and inside the workplace, whether it be a normal 9 to 5 job or whether it not be a normal 9 to 5 job. But we just need to work out sometimes, yeah, what that reason is, and to find a valuable reason why that's happening, innit? And a solution as well, because once you talk about it, yeah, it's out there in the open. And it's not to say that people are going to do something immediately because you've got a problem. If you've got a problem, I always suggest for you sometimes to fix it, because as a man, as a young black man, my mission is to fix problems in my own life, in my personal life, in my relationship, all of these things, because that's what I believe that a man's role is like, is to fix problems, innit? So whether it's a problem what's in the workplace, problem what's in my relationship life, I can sort it out, even one in my friendship, because being able to adapt to the situation allows you to have more understanding about it. But again, if you don't get people having or your manager or your supervisor having an honest opinion and a talk and a conversation with you about your progression, or an honest talk about your appraisal when it comes to, like, I don't know, let's say you've done your 6-month probation period. You might have passed with flying colors because you've made sure that you've never been late, you've always done the jobs, you've always tried to turn up on time and always try and get a great rapport with the customer so you can get good feedback going to the office and all that. When you do a good job, sometimes people will wait specifically a long time to tell you, oh yeah, that person said you've done a good job. Okay, why didn't you tell me at the time? Yeah, it might have slipped your mind. It happens. People are human. But when you do something bad, it will be magnetized to where like, oh my God, you done this. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Right, I did do that, but everyone is allowed to make mistakes. Mistakes happen at work. Sometimes they're not your fault. Sometimes they're out of your control, right? So the mistakes which you see others do and the rules for you might be different. I've definitely seen that, but I've not let it play like a big role in my life because, again, I'm not them and they're not me, right? So I'm just going to judge me off of being me and them off of being themselves. And if that is a conflict, or I find that like, oh, this other person's being treated this other way and I'm not, I'm old enough. I'm in my 30s, so I'm really, really old enough to be able to like look past it or look at the issue and understand what it is, whether it be someone not liking me for me. And I understand why some people might think that they might not like me for me because they don't know me. To be honest, I've had a platform for years. I've never had bad comments and, oh, he done this at work and he that, because I don't do that. I try not to do that because I'm trying to set a good example just for myself first before I'm setting an example for anybody else to say, yeah, follow me, I'm a role model. And I understand that young black males, yeah, we don't have a lot of role models who are willing to talk out and speak about the problems or your story. They just want to let people hear about their success, but the hardship, yeah, and the understanding, yeah, and this is an understanding what I want to say, which is, you know, like a lot of Caribbean black young males, we come from respecting everybody, yeah. Respect is big inside your household, period. Like respecting your elders and other people who you look up to is necessary. You know, you respect your parents and your parents will tell you, you know, there's some things that you don't say in front of women. And if you're a man in this situation, you try and deal with it like what you've seen other men deal with it. You emulate it, right? So sometimes when we're being attacked as people, yeah, the first thing is to defend yourself and then attack back. Or you might attack back first and then defend yourself. But however you do it inside the workplace, yeah, there's this corporate way of doing stuff, right? And we don't always have the resources or the knowledge to be able to find out how to do that. If there's a protocol for something, sometimes people will just tell you late just because we don't want you to do it. And that is worrying at its best point because you're not given all of the information and the resources like everybody else if you are struggling or if you do need some help. I'm not saying that people don't help young black people at work. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just that if you're going through something, whether you feel like you're being attacked for who you are inside the workplace, there is nobody that has had any type of training to be able to deal with someone who is going through the things that you're going through. There's no training. You could ask your manager, is there some type of equality training what you've had? Or is there some type of discrimination training what you've had yourself to be able to deal with something like this? And I think in 2025, that's a perfect and understandable question to ask your manager if they're not the same race as you. Like, if I tell you about this subject or this problem which I'm having, do you have any qualifications or have you been on any courses to allow you to deal with this type of situation? If you haven't, then I'm going to have to go above you and beyond you to be able to sort this problem out. And again, that is going to make them mad. I'm going to be real with you. That's going to make them upset because that's obviously someone like myself saying that you don't have the skill set to be able to deal with it. You don't have the training to be able to deal with it. So you're not really going to understand. You're going to deal with things how you feel it should be done personally when you don't have any experience or qualifications in dealing with these situations. You're dealing with them of how you feel, which is normally emotion, right? So if somebody feels that you play, and I'm going to tell you now, you play this race card, yeah? And that's what they want to call it, because the race card thing is like a trigger word to trigger you to say that you're using your race as something which we are attacking you for. But someone can't really define what that is. Like, how am I using my race when I'm telling you that I'm having a racial discrimination towards me inside the workplace, or because of my race, I'm seeing that there's no progression here because there is no one who is very similar to my race or the same race as me? Of course it's going to make people feel uncomfortable, but life is life, and you can't always make everybody feel comfortable in this situation. You just got to get on with it, and getting on with it is just being honest with yourself, is looking at your own cards. If you got 2 jacks and you need a diamond, you need to do what you want to do about it, but you got to do it in a mannerism which is helping yourself, man, because you got to understand this life where people take your time, your precious time, because time is something which we are never getting back. That's why I decided to make these videos, because I know these videos will last forever, and they will be resonating with the younger generation, the Gen Z, the 20-year-olds, the 27-year-olds. I have so many people in my comment section, and people who have reached out to me by text message saying, do you know what? I like that video, what you done there, you know? You're doing your thing. Keep doing it. Because bringing awareness is not to make people feel uncomfortable. It's just to let the people who resonate with that understand that this is a place and these are things which happen. So it's just something you got to like figure out for yourself. But the figuring it out starts with the situation. You know, if you feel that you've been unjust at a situation, document it. That's the first thing you should do. Document it, the time, the day, what happened, your little statement for yourself. Because again, when things happen fresh, yeah, it's easier to take notes of those things and highlight the things which happened, right? So when you do that, you start to have a case, right? And your case could be presented in like a tribunal court and stuff like that. If you feel like you've been racially discriminated, or you feel like you've been discriminated because of your race, right? And that's something that we don't do because no one wants to go through the fucking process. It's fucking long. And when you think about it, yeah, imagine if I had to tell a few of my last workplaces, I left there because he said something racist to me. They'll be like, what? Now, what did he say to you? Do you know what? Don't you think me repeating that is me living through some type of trauma? Oh, no, no, no. I just wanted to know what it is. Why? Do you want to say something? Do you not understand what that statement represents? No, you don't. But I'm not here to explain it to you. I'm not the generation that's going to be out here explaining it to them at any point, because you got Google it. Google it and find out what it is. Because if you do, you don't need me to answer you, do you? And that's a fact. But while we get trained to be inside a workplace, yeah, you get trained to think a certain way. Your mindset is a certain way. Your ability will be a certain way. Your purpose, yeah, is to serve the workplace because you're working. That's what it is, yeah. So you adhere by the rules. And I adhere by the rules and try and follow the guidelines so I don't just get in trouble. Do you get it? At this late age, or this age now, I shouldn't say late age, 'cause I'm not even really old, but at this age now, I don't want to press restart at any point. I just want to keep moving forward, right? And I feel that a lot of young black males do want to move forward, but the brick wall, what is in front of you, is this thing of success, is this thing of you making something of yourself. And for all of us that put themselves out there, you know that even to show up, you got to show up like 5 times today to be able to be seen, you know? So it becomes a bit of a strenuous process because progress is not of the same rate as your counterparts. And that's the reality. But again, some people can say that, yes, they see progression or they've moved from this place to that place. That's your story. Someone else's story is not the same as you. So I encourage all people to drop their stories in this comment section and to be able to let people understand, you know, the things you go through, and you being the person being able to drop a comment shows a level of like, I've grown past it. I'm not on it in an angry and an aggressive way because we want to get away from the stigma. I'm on it in a way where I'm here to show you transparency from how it happened to me, so how it can't happen to yourselves. And at this point, I've really realized that, you know, like real life content, yeah, is the best content that I could ever put out. Don't get me wrong. There's a point in my own life, yeah, when I just don't really want to expose all of these things about myself, but also the stuff what I've had to go through, because there's a part of me which knows that you shouldn't have had to go through that to even get somewhere. But there is a need to accept certain things, accept, move on. It doesn't mean that you agree. Like, if you're not the decision maker in the situation, you can't always pull cards or say what you want it to be, because at the end of the day, you don't hold that that power because you're working for somebody else. And that's why I always started my own business, to say that I'm going to work for myself and I'm going to do things how I feel fair, and whatever opportunities I do get, I'm just not on discrimination. I'm not on discriminating to anybody. Like, most of the people who have used my business, yeah. No, I can't say most of the people. Yeah. A good percentage of the people who have used my business, and the first people that jumped to my business when I started jumping online, is Black women. You know, my mum's a Black woman, my dad's a Black man. And I know that Black women want to see you and give the money to you, possibly instead of somebody else. Because they see what I'm doing. They see that if I'm doing a good job, they want to support my business. And I'm grateful for that. But we know that we don't have a massive community in this country anyway. So I would never not say that I'm not going to these other people's houses. I've been to loads of people's houses, and I've told you, again, I've never felt in London that I've got to someone's door and like they've looked at me funny and be like, oh, he's a Black guy. I've never had that. I always relate to you. I've never had that. In the workplace, when I'm working a 9 to 5, it's very different, because the workplace is about control. You know, you control and eliminate certain things inside the workplace, and a lot of it tends to be a mind game. So it's a physically draining game when it comes to trying to push yourself in the right way, but also get the right type of answers and the right type of response. So I say to people, and I see people say it in my last video, oh, just get your qualifications and blah, 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 blah. I'm talking about my experiences, and I've had my qualifications for over 20 years. Again, you're still getting the same. I've got experience and qualifications. That's not the problem. The problem's deeper than that. But again, some people, and even some Black people, they will say that some things never happened to them. Again, you might not be the person who they choose to single out or whatever. You're just not that person. That's okay. But you can't speak for all of us, because all of us are very different in every different way, whether it's cultural, whether it's how we carry ourselves, whether it's our mannerism, whether it's how people identify towards us, or whether it's what people see when they see you. They see someone, I'm 6'3", yeah, tall, wamp. You can see I've got muscles. We don't need to, yeah. So some people might feel like I'm going to be aggressive towards them. They might feel as if like, oh, I feel that, yeah, I think he's a bit of a threat and all that. They might feel threatened by your presence, which that's not a you thing, that's a them thing. But how you deal with that is normally I've kind of made myself a little bit more placid to be able to get on with people. And again, I don't have an aggressive approach when it comes to that type of thing, because at some point in my 20 years of experience while working for other people, I would have been fired for being aggressive. I've never been fired for being aggressive. There's never been anything like that. Again, I've learned so many things by watching and standing back, but I've also learned that me talking about my experiences brings a level of understanding to others who don't even know, because there's some people who watch my video who are obviously not black, which is, I'm welcoming those people in, because these are uncomfortable conversations what people don't want to have with you. They might want to have it with you because they might not feel that you're relevant to hear that conversation. Everyone is relevant to hear my conversation. I just keep it a buck. That's why my page is just open, and I can just, people can send in their messages or send in their comments, which I would like people to comment on the comment section below, and also give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, because these are series which I'm making and I'm coming on and I'm talking about my life personally to be able to help others. It's not about helping myself. Well, some of it is helping myself because I'm at the comfortable point where I can explain it and articulate it in the right way, but it not be a hateful, remorseful, or a video where I'm begging. I'm not begging for anything. I'm telling people how it is. Again, if people don't agree, you live in your own truth, and so do I live in my own truth, which is these scenarios are a cycle of happening. You know, history repeats itself. People will always tell you that. So if back in the day, people found it hard to get jobs who were young black males in construction, they're obviously going to find it hard today, because history is just repeating itself and there's been nothing in place to be able to stop that process from happening or to be able to change it. Do you get it? So my content is to be able to bring people together to have constructive conversations and to build a union. Yeah, the union is not like, oh, the union is like a trade union. It's not that, because trade union, I've never been part of any trade union in my life, and I've been in the trade for 20 years. But they say that people who are tradespeople only stay in trade unions for 17 years. You can check the statistics online. I don't say things without looking up facts, because I understand that there are so many people that give out misinformative information out to our younger generation and out to our generation who is going to be out there representing, because I'm not the generation that's going to be out there representing. My time will be done soon. But because your time's done doesn't mean that you don't have any words of wisdom or things to say. I'll always encourage every young black male or brown male or people who are not non-white, and also white as well, because I've mentored so many young white males in their career with helping them and just encouraging them and just taking a step back to say that, do you know what, when I was young, like, I just needed someone like that. And I did have someone like that. So it encourages me to do it for other people. For me, it doesn't matter unless you're not being disrespectful towards myself. As long as you got this level of respect, then we can always get on. Anybody can go to my IG page and see how many non-black people follow me, which is a lot, which I'm thankful for at the same point, but they understand the value within myself, and the perspective which I come from is a total different one to them. We ain't even the same thing. We ain't had the same come up. We ain't had the same struggle. We haven't had the same problems. So that's why I talk about it from this perspective, because I understand that the problems will not go away until we admit them, until we deal with them, and until we address them in a professional environment, but also in an environment which is going to help us. Because yeah, some of us will be struggling from that type of trauma in life, which is, you know what, I've done this job, and how they reacted to me when I was at this job, it made me feel really bad. I didn't like it. I never want to go back there. What did you learn though? What I learned was blah, 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 blah. Okay. And what do you think the solution might be for that? The solution might be this. Where did you start to see it go wrong at the beginning? It started to go wrong at the beginning when there was no communication, when communication routes broke down, when the people weren't hearing me out, hearing the things what I had to say. That's one thing I find quite a big thing. People will say in the workplace, they haven't really got time to talk to you. They have. You're getting paid for doing not a lot. You know how many people run around and make cups of tea? When people offer me a cup of tea and all that, or water when I'm at work, or I'm busy. You know, I bring my own drink. You know what I mean? I need to work. I need to know what's in the bottle. You can't give me something because it's just. I bring my own drink. Do you understand? So I'm not trying to waste what someone would class as valuable time on a cup of tea or going outside to have a fag. I don't smoke, so this again, those things are not gonna come in with me. Do you understand? But for our younger individuals that do come across this, again, some of these conversations which I have is not conversations which I have with my parents or anything like that. They're conversations which I have with myself, which I want to have with you guys online, because I understand the community which I'm building, but also the level of people nowadays is that for any given reason, if somebody doesn't like you, yeah, they're just not gonna fucking take to you, period. Like, and as much as you might think it's a you thing, it might be them just drawing you off from the start. I don't like that person because of X. Yeah, but they're cool. Yeah, but why? And I've had to ask some people inside workplaces when they say that. Like, I had a colleague who was working with me, African guy, and this other manager, he was a supervisor, sorry, he would make little jokes about him and stuff like that, yeah? And I'm like to him, you know I'm black too, you know? You know that, innit? Oh yeah, but you're Caribbean. No, I'm black, period. So you see all those little things what you say. I could say a lot of things about you or yourself, like you're missing teeth and stuff like that. I don't say that. Do you know why I don't say that? Because I'm grown. I'm not on that. It's not a tit for tat. And I know you're broke. So I'll just speak about things which you could change, but you don't, which is you being broke. I don't say that because I'm grown again. Grown people don't have time for that. But not having time for some of the issues which turn into bigger problems later on inside the workplace allows things to kind of like spiral out of control. I always like to pull people aside and take them outside and tell them, listen, see that little thing what you done there? Don't ever do that again. Yeah? I dare for them to ask me, what do you mean? And I will tell them, because there's not really many things that are fair at this point. I don't fear people trying to label me as something which I'm not, because my track record shows it through and through. Again, I've said to you that I work in predominantly white places and stuff like that. And I try my best not to make jokes about other races or talk about other races down in any type of way, because again, unless I've studied that person or that race, I can't always say that the stigmas about you are true, because everybody is different, right? And again, if people take no time to get to know you, yeah, they don't fucking know you. Once again, they could never know you because they've not took the decency to ask you what your goals are inside the workplace. Where do you see yourself in 3 years time, 2 years time? I guarantee you These people have never said these things to you, but you've never deeped it. When I say deeped it, I mean you've never thought into it to be able to say, oh, actually, they've never. And if they was trying to help me in my progression of being inside the workplace so I could either, quote unquote, grow or climb the ladder of the company or success or whatever you want to call it, you would need to know these things. In a year's time, I would like to be the supervisor. Oh, okay. Well, what you need to do is to be the supervisor, you need to have a triple MSTS. Oh, okay. Right. How do I get that? Well, it's a course what you can go on, which is to do with health and safety. And that allows you to be the supervisor. And again, that is more in detail when it comes to health and safety. That's all it's to do with, right? When it comes to construction. So I have a triple MSTS, so I know. Do you get it? So what I'm saying to people is just that the importance of building yourself is about playing chess and not playing checkers with these idiots, because there's bare idiots out there. There's idiots inside the workplace. There's people who know that if they let you control this situation, you will run it better than they will, because you might do it with a bit more passion, you might do it with a bit more understanding, and you might just be better at doing it than them. That's just the fact. Or you might be worse. Again, you got to be given the chance to find out. I was always given the chance because I showed up and I made sure that I had qualifications, and I made sure that I'd done my research, whether it was about the company, whether it was about the situation what I was getting into. I made sure I'd done my research, because that was going to be the icing on the cake compared to everybody else. And I really thought to myself, you know what? I've really changed around my life by taking a different leaf out of a next book. So it's more of the cool, calm, understanding, listen, look back, observe things from my perspective, and then ask questions, not ask questions straight away, because the idea of asking questions when you're a young person or a young black person in some workplaces, they might feel as if you don't know nothing, but you do know something. You just want clarification from them. And that's the point of playing chess and not checkers. You understand? I will keep on saying that because I think that's the motto for this video: chess and not checkers inside this system of what sometimes can be oppression. When people used to tell me about the system, that you're in a system of work, and I didn't really used to get it, because I used to think, isn't everybody in the system of work? Once you start working, you're in a system, but it's a system sometimes which is designed to make some people fail or slow you down or hinder your chances to be able to be successful in some type of way. But there is always a bigger plan for you if you have a plan for yourself, right? Because someone else's plan isn't always your plan. You got to understand that for yourselves. Like, how you conduct yourself, yeah, will definitely have people looking at you differently. I've realized that in so many different workplaces, because I've been out speaking. I've been the person who I am today, but I'm not saying it on the internet. I'll say it to people's face, because they know that, yeah, you see my man, you don't play. And I don't play with them, because I only ask people to treat me like they treat others. And if I see any difference, I'm on you, straight up. I would be like, oh, well, that wasn't fair what you done there or that, you know. I witnessed someone flood a building one time, yeah? And I went to go and help them because we heard them over the radio. This gentleman said, when he went to the manager after, oh, Jason done it. Well, obviously, some of you lot don't even know my name's Jason, but it is Jason. But I don't really care. You can search it yourself. I'm Mr. London Plumber, but my name is Jason. You could, most of you lot are not going to search it, but anyway, I don't know why I said that. But he said Jason done it. So I'm like, what? I done it. I was with this person. And this other person vouched for me being with them. So how could we all be in the same place? Because he didn't say Dave was with me. Oh, sorry. Then the guy's name was Alan. He didn't say Alan was with me. So I said, all right. So he said to me, I don't believe him anyway. The supervisor said to me, he doesn't believe me anyway. So what I done was it was basically a strainer. So he was supposed to be taking out a strainer and isolating it so he could work and clean the strainer and then put it back in. So I done that job on the weekend and I made a video because I make content and I sent it to them. And when I sent it to them, because they queried me about, Jason, what happened in this scenario? I told them what happened. I said, look, I turned off the valve. He didn't turn off the valve before. Again, I think maybe you should tell people what to do before they do it because they might be unclear of the instructions, right? That's the only thing I said about it. So when I made a video about it and I sent it to him, guess what he done? He didn't message you back and say, cheers, mate, like he normally does. He just said nothing. So when I saw him on the Monday, because it was like the Saturday or the Sunday when I done it, I said to him, do you see the video? He said, yeah. And I made sure he said that in front of his own manager because now they could both hear the conversation, which is, you saw the video what I sent you? Did you see any leaking on the floor? Did you see the building get flooded? Did you get called on the weekend? Where was the water flying out? It wasn't, because it was done properly. What he didn't want to admit at the time was that, okay, now we need to reprimand the other person because telling that lie could have cost you your job. There was none of that. And I realized, obviously, at that point, without not saying nothing, is that there's two rules. There's a rule for them and a rule for me. I'm not going to get a thank you about it because I'm the person that maybe knows better. I'm a qualified plumber. This other person's not a qualified plumber. Why you're letting people do things who are unqualified is your reason, right? I get it. Sometimes people can do things like change a tap or like change a valve, but if it's in an environment which can be a hazardous environment or a problem to others, being in an office block, because that's what it was, a lot of PCs and expensive stuff could have got damaged, right? But we contained the leak. So everyone will muck in to help. I'm always in workplaces that are like that. If you could always muck in, it don't matter if you fuck up, I'll come and help. That's just how it is. I'll bring the wet vac, I'll clean up. I'm not a bougie guy. You're gonna get me helping. It doesn't matter the race of people. I work, like I said to you, most of those people are white who I work with. So I don't care about mucking in or helping out. All I care about at that present time is that other person coming back and saying, do you know what, mate, I'm sorry about that. I should have looked into it more. And I've seen the video which you've sent me, which is very good evidence and proof that it can be done safely. And I will be reprimanding or speaking to that other person about that situation. That never fucking happened. It's my new little drink. I don't want to talk about it because it's like one of my sponsors, but it never happened for me. I accepted it and I moved on. But I took a mental note to understand that, you know what? See my man over there, he'll push you over the lake at any point. Any point. So you can't trust him. So my level of trust goes down for that person. And also my level of respect goes down for the other person for telling me something stupid and not actually coming to his devices and saying, oh, do you know what? We done wrong there, which we should have corrected it. Every workplace or any workplace is not always going to be fair on things like that because it's an investigation which they've got to investigate into, which you will never see the results. But if there was a result, they don't want to tell you or nothing at some points because, again, this is you being right and them being wrong. So whether something's right and right, whether it's something's wrong and wrong, those scenarios and situations going over will sometimes cause you or pull you to the point where you say, the fuck am I helping these lot for? Do you get it? But I'm just really not that person to say that because it's not because I don't like confrontation. Me, I love a bit of confrontation. I just see no point in it. There's no fucking point. There's no point in getting myself up to that point where I'm raging or angry or aggressive towards the situation, let it be. And I think I learned that through my dad in letting some scenarios be and not saying stuff. I'm only going to tell you one thing. I don't never talk about my dad, but dad's a great man. I'm going to talk about him now. And my dad's in his 60s, yeah? Works at a normal workplace. My dad drives a BMW, nice car, big car. Always had BMW since I've been young. Dad's bossy like that. Works hard, wants a nice car. He goes to work. The guys say to him, oh, but you just do this driving and all that. My dad doesn't do like a serial technical job at the moment because he's of age, right? So he drives his BMW to his workplace when he drives another van to do his job, right? They say to him, fucking hell, mate. How do you afford that motor? Sorry? How do you afford that motor? Well, he works every day just like you do. He saves his money. Hold on. Why are we telling you this? Are you the police? Are you the police of who should be having stuff? But I take that a little bit with, there's curiosity people at work. There's nosy fuckers at work. There's people who want to be in your business so they can tell other people. And there's always someone who might turn around and say, oh, if you can afford that, we're paying you too much. Who the fuck? You're not even fucking paying me. Don't come out of your account. It never came out of your personal account. What the hell are you talking about? But obviously that approach can sometimes get the other people's back up. But as far as I'm concerned, you're looking too hard and pocket watching someone who, when you think about it, if they've been working for good part of 40 years, yeah, they have money. So again, thinking that they don't have money is your mistake, or you're like, oh, you're going to judge them off of something which you see. One sec, I need to just plug something in. You're judging them off something which you don't see, but you want to make a situation. Again, my dad told me that, yeah? So I'm like, rah, you're like in your 60s and people say that to you. So is this a cycle thing which is never going to stop? Because if somebody sees you with things, knowingly that you've worked consecutively, that's year after year, for 4 to 5 years for the same place, and even if you saved your money, not that anyone should be watching how much money you are getting, but even if you did save your money, you would still have enough money to buy the things what you want. But how have you got that? I choose not to speak about some of my personal things with people at work, because again, this whole, how much do you get? Oh, you're getting a lot of money. You're da-da-da-da-da. But I work more than you anyway. I work more than you. That's just a fact. I might not be on more money than you, but I definitely work more than you. And that's all my understanding is, that I've tried to work harder or more hours than most people so I can have some of the things which I've got, and so I can invest with some of the ideas which I've got, because I know that the ball doesn't just stop here. So I want to remind you guys that your eggs in one basket is not a good thing to do, because if you did face a hurdle or faced situations which I've faced in my career, yeah, you want to have something on the side, your side hustle, your little flex, something which you do, which is governed by yourself, because you're in control of that getting to where it needs to get to. So be mindful of that and have a little bit of understanding that to be successful inside these scenarios and situations, it's you knuckling down on the things and the goals which you want to do for yourself, and looking at the workplace as, are we playing checkers or are we playing motherfucking chess? Sorry about the swearing. Didn't need to do so much of it, but I need to be passionate about what I'm talking about. And this is the way I feel, because this eye of people watching you, it will never really go away. I think sometimes as young black men or black men, you'll be sometimes the most scrutinized inside of those situations. And it brings a high level of stress to any individual because it's not the same for everybody else. I've said to you before, one rule for someone else, another rule for you. But don't let it ever fucking deter you, because you're strong, you're powerful, you're mindful. And if you can work it out, then you will always win. And you can work it out. I just want to remind people that, because the struggles that we go through mentally it bears on your shoulders and it pushes them down. For women as well, black women inside workplace, I know it's hard for you. Big up the queens, yeah? And most people of different races is hard all over the world. And I get so many, which I'm looking at now. I see someone sent a message from Brazil. And it's the same thing over the board when it comes to people like discriminating and people being able to go for it, but having enough courage to talk about it, because talking about it starts the ball in motion, which is we want to resolve these situations. Yeah, first things first. We're not coming on here just to make up noise. Don't get me wrong. We need to diagnose what is the fucking problem in the first place. Whether that be the tree of command, no one looking like us, whether it be the fact that your manager has, or your supervisor inside the workplace hasn't took the time, the effort, or the responsibility to understand your goals or what you want. Or if you're feeling discriminated at any point, you going to them as a person who's of another race, they might not understand your problems. So my first thing would be to be asking them is, what fucking training have you had, mate, on discrimination or racism or this point in your career? Because I need to know that before I tell you something, because I don't know if you've got the skill set to be able to deal with it or the experience. So I just would like you to tell me that first. And once you tell me that first, I'll decide personally if I want to tell you about the issue or the problem, because the problem happens to me and I wouldn't want to bring a problem on your shoulders if you don't know how to deal with it, because there's no point. There is a point, but we just need to know if we have to go past you as the point and go to a higher up person. Do you understand? Because for me, I'm all about progression. I'm all about inspiring people. And I can inspire them, but we just have to talk about the truth. And the truth, like they say, will set you free, man. Like I said, it will set you free. A lot of these people, they don't want to have no truth conversation with me, because one thing I've learned is, especially in these scenarios when you're trying to be successful, when you're just trying to highlight the facts and not any of the personal things, the factual things, keep on those factual lines. It'll be hard for them to fuck with you on any factual lines, because you're dealing with facts. You're not dealing with anything personally. Personally, I feel like this. No, this is what happened, and that was a fact that happened. That happened then, and that happened then. This is why this video has to be so long, because I have to tell you, you wind it back, and I'm saying to you that you need to document it. Document it, times, dates, what happened, scenarios, this, that, what happened. When you have your appraisal, you could come up with it and say, look, Nathan, you've reached your 6-month probation period. Really happy with your progression, blah, blah, blah. Have you got any feedback for us? Where's my notepad? Yeah, I have. On September, yeah, at the 7th, at 7 o'clock. This is what you said to me. What do you mean by this? Because this is what followed after that situation. I felt that this situation was very uncalled for and unprofessional. And it was an attack on my skills, understanding, because you asked me to do something, but you wanted it done a different way. And then you made a thing out of it by talking to me about it. So let's just clear the air on all of these situations. There's 8 of them. So take a good seat, Martin, and sit down. Sit yourself down. Get yourself a little drink. Yeah, guy, you're going to need this one, because we need some feedback from you. Sometimes that's how you got to deal with things. But if I was going to deal with something like that, just know that I got another job lined up, because we ain't trying to miss no meals. You understand? We ain't trying to miss no meals. So shout out to the people from Brazil for tuning in. Shout out to the people from US for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And shout out, there was TJ as well, who is in his level 2. He came into the chat as well. Leon, I can see as well. He done his level 2. So shout out all of those young men who came in today for some advice with myself. And there's a few other people within the chat as well, which I can see. Ebony, shout out you. She's shouting out facts. Big up the queens them. True Topic, big up yourself as well, because he said preach in the chat. I appreciate everyone who's down there dropping the comments and supporting the content. I'm only trying to bring awareness. We're going to make this channel as big as we can by giving people the truth and nothing less. That's what we're here to do. So make sure you subscribe and look out for the new uploads and look out for the lives. I'm out.